All right. Thank you all for coming. Today's panel, we will be talking about um, the gaming industry in Saudi and how it's emerging and lessons from the first wave of the developers that we saw in Saudi. So let me start by introducing myself. I'm Abdillah Sharif. I'm the Vice President of Investments at Mirak Capital. Mirak Capital, we're Saudi-based venture capital firm focused, or we have the largest gaming fund focused, or like the largest gaming focused fund in the region. We manage about $83 million focused in gaming, and we started working the past, I'd say, 8 months or so. With me in the panel, Dr. Noor, Hani, and Miad. I would love if you could maybe introduce yourselves, guys.
Hi, my name is Dr. Noor, also known commonly as Nika, I guess. And I'm currently SVP at Savvy Games Group, where we're focusing on the international business development aspect. And overall, our focus is on upskilling the Saudi Arabia ecosystem, esports, and M&A.
Hi everyone, pleasure to be here. My name is Hani Hashim. I am heading Fahi Studios. It's a mobile game development studio based in Saudi, and we plan to build hybrid casual games for global audiences.
Hi everyone, it's nice to be here. It's Miad. I'm a co-founder and CEO of Starvania Studio. We're an indie game studio from Saudi Arabia, and we build fantasy universes that are being out of sight and from another perspective that haven't been discovered before, yet to be filled with thoughtfulness and inspiring concepts. So we focus on only PC and consoles. And we have just launched our very first game a few months ago. Thank you. And thank you so much. On PC, and will also come out to Nintendo actually a few days from now.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So I was part of the gaming ecosystem, I would say, in Saudi since 2016 or so. I think it was the first activation of the gaming ecosystem. I remember we were about like 13 people, and that was it. And I saw it grow and develop and evolve. But what I really want to get a sense of is you, Dr. Noor, you have a storied career in gaming and in the industry, and you're a recent joiner to the Saudi ecosystem. I would love to just see what you expected and what you saw, and how do you, how excited are you about what you're seeing and the development in the gaming ecosystem in Saudi?
Yeah, so candidly, I've been helping develop ecosystems in a variety of different countries, ranging from advising Belgium to developers in Jamaica. Throughout COVID, I was the executive director of the IGDA Foundation. And when I watched the market shift after the pandemic, and I was watching kind of this mega conglomeration and consolidation, I was very excited, genuinely excited to see a Muslim country come out in full force. Because I was born Muslim. I was born in a pretty conservative family, at least, especially with career prospects on like what I was allowed to do, which was, you can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer, you can be an engineer, you kind of like go into like family exile. I chose exile. Eventually, I got my PhD and became a fake doctor, but I was a big gamer. I wasn't even allowed to play games in my household. Like, my father was convinced it's like medical school or you're going to work at McDonald's. And to be honest, I love McDonald's, so that sounded pretty good to me too. And but I never really thought in my lifetime, because video gaming as a degree wasn't even available in the U.S. We started booming that education system and pipeline in 2010. And so I never thought in my lifetime that MENA would actually be a real market for gaming. Like I couldn't fathom it. And I was like a moth to a flame. I was like, I have to go there. And upon arrival, we've got this, you see all these stories of like, oh, we are acquiring this, and you've got Neom and all these giga projects. And I remember it's actually where I met Mad. In January, I went to an IGDA chapter. And I hadn't really met devs yet. I've just been meeting like fancy investor men. And I went to this dev event, and it was very cool. It was so rock and roll. It felt like WeWork in 2015 when the US had the app economy. There was, on the second floor, you had Saudi devs that were quietly sketching in their books. You had business development downstairs. You had all this great energy and excitement, and it was over 100 people at this event drinking matcha at 11 p.m. And I was like, this is incredible. I have to be a part of it. I have to help. And that's really what attracted me to the job. And thank you for being so welcoming and so open.
Thank you for coming and for helping, and definitely, but we're always happy to see high quality people such as yourself. I remember this really rings a very, let's say, reminiscent bell, as when we I think we were the first ecosystem kind of development program. Again, we were literally around like 12, 13 people. I remember like we squeezed the whole ecosystem in Riyadh, and it was like 13, 14 people. That was max. And when the wave started after COVID, and we're seeing, like, I was literally keeping an eye on all gaming companies, and I would see them grow 100% or 200% year over year in terms of the number of companies. However, I come from investments in technology mainly. I worked, let's say, like a few projects in gaming that never saw the light of day, thank God. They're too embarrassing to have my name on them. If I think of any kind of business, I wouldn't do gaming. It's tough. It's very tough, and because coming from like technology investments, I would assume, I mean, I would do technology, but gaming has this interesting spirit to it. So, what inspired you to start gaming? Because you're not just starting a gaming company; it's a gaming company in Saudi, in MENA, where the ecosystem is very nascent. What made you go and say, "Yep, I see the massive Goliath of a mountain, and hey, let's try. Let's take a stab at it."
That's a very interesting question that I ask myself at times as well. So I think my story with gaming started from my childhood, obviously playing the Nintendo 64, the Game Boy. And I always had this urge to create things. And creative media in general in Saudi was not a thing. It was not a field that you could get into. So my first interaction with game development was actually modding. I used to love to mod Pokemon games specifically. Draw my character.
So
mod it.
illegally.
Oh, we're streaming. No. So yes, that was how I started. I also used to run a forum-based RPG game. That was the closest I could get to build a game. But then I took a more typical career path. I worked in management consulting for around 10 years. And I only took the step to leave my job a few months back. And that was really the transition. What inspired me to make this move? Two things. First is seeing the gaming industry being placed as one of the pillars in Saudi's vision as a country. This really helps you feel a sense of security that, yes, this industry is somewhere where the country will continue to invest and place for strategic focus. And the second thing is meeting like-minded people who were willing to take this risk with me. And once these two came together, I was able to step out of my job and take on this challenge.
Amazing, and I'm happy you stepped out of your job as your investor. I'm happy you're in a very riskier job now.
Yes.
Mi'ad, I remember the first time, if I'm not mistaken, we met was, if it's not 2021, it was early 2022. And I remember how tough the ecosystem back then, and I was very difficult, getting access to funding and liquidity and so on. But you kept on going. So why? And how did you see the ecosystem kind of? Because I think you're one of the earliest veterans of the Saudi ecosystem that went through like from A to Z. You saw the whole saga.
Yeah.
So
for me, it was really out of passion. It didn't really matter whether it's profitable or not. So I grew up with a family full of gamers. I started playing games since I was 7. And I've been always like curious to know how are they making it, what's behind it, and all the secrets behind this like creative industry. And I actually I started as a self-learning. I started as a game designer, then I became a producer. No, actually, I started as a programmer, then I became a game designer, then I became a producer. Then at that day, I was literally deciding to, okay, it's time for me to start my own game studio. But at that time, I started like in gaming officially back in 2013, where there was no gaming industry back then in the region, nothing, no awareness, no support, literally nothing. And I wanted to build my own game studio at that time, but I couldn't. My job was taking a huge part of my time and effort. I was working as a project manager in a tech company, very boring job, because there was nothing related to gaming. And at one day, I literally just decided to quit my highly paid job for the sake of building my dream. And I remember back then, I went to my boss, told him, hey, I'm quitting my job and I'm moving to Riyadh. I'm originally from Jeddah. And they were very surprised and they were shocked, like, hey, you are in a very good company, very good position, highly paid. Everything is just so good, but I'm just leaving everything behind to start a gaming studio while there was
That even a real thing?
yeah, like there was nothing. I mean, go get yourself a serious job. What are you doing? But I really believe that I wanted to make this step because I really wanted to, and I feel like there should be like we should start somewhere, right? And at the same day, I went to my parents, told them, hey, I quit my job and I'm moving to Riyadh to start my business. They were shocked. That was the second shock. And I told them, just give me 1 year, and if it didn't work out, I'll just come back. And since then, I never came back. We started from there, and it was exactly at that time there was like all the evolution and explosion happening in gaming, and it was just the right time for me. I started participating in multiple accelerators and incubators program, moving from one accelerator to another till we reached this point. So.
That's amazing because I remember seeing the ecosystem. It started with just like small government programs that are supporting early stage ambitious people that left their jobs like you. And I remember thinking that some longevity has to come out of this. And hopefully or thankfully by end of 2024, 2025, Mirak Gaming Fund, Impact Gaming Fund came and kind of carried things forward. Now, it's been tough. I know it's been really tough because I know you for a long time. Now, what would you say kind of like a unique challenges for you as a founder in Saudi, as well as like unique opportunities that you see in the ecosystem?
For me, because we were the first batch of Saudi developers, the first studios in Saudi, we were basically the lab rats. We were like at the front, on the front line, just taking all the damages, And it was challenging for us because the industry was still emerging, was still starting. There was limited knowledge. There was like almost lack of knowledge, and the people who are really understand how this industry works were actually very limited, were few. So it was so challenging for us to find someone that actually experienced the same situations that I'm currently going through. So it took us some time to build knowledge and experience. It took us so many years. It took us multiple trips, traveling all around the world to meet with industry professionals, meeting with publishers, and I think it was so tough at that time to really build the your support system and your circle. But once you have it, everything else starts to break through, I would say.
That's amazing because again, I think it was it had kind of like a glass ceiling to it that was very difficult to break from or break through. But again, Miad perseveres as Miad does always. Hani, what is your take? What was really tough for you, particularly being like Saudi and Saudi founder in MENA and Saudi?
So I resonate with what Mi'ad said. I think initially the main challenge was that no one took us seriously. Not our families, not the industry, not the government. There was nothing back then. And also the idea of this whole creative media industry not existing before means that we're part of building an industry from scratch. There, as Mi'ad said, no experts, no one has done this before. We're all kind of trying to learn, trying to figure out things together. But to me, I also see this as a unique opportunity of being in such a situation because you get to do things from scratch, which also means you get to try new things, build it in new ways. You don't have this typical legacy or the right way of doing things. You get to innovate, and I think that is a unique opportunity.
So you came at it with no playbook, and you were like, all right,
Let's build a playbook.
okay, that's amazing. Dr. Noor, I want to talk about two things. One is, where do you see kind of the opportunity here? And my second question would be about the role Savvy is playing in this.
I mean, the first kind of dominant opportunity I see is an ecosystem and a region that can be primed to start developing MENA-based narrative and lore games. We don't have a lot of games that are actually built representing the region or the culture, and you're seeing a boom of that coming out of markets like China, like Asia. And so we want to build the skills and the talent and the development, because I do hear from devs often, like I do hear from leadership often, I want to play games about my country, my culture, my experiences. We have them in other nations, we have them in other societies and communities. And it is a beautiful culture. It is a beautiful place. Like, I really do encourage people to come visit Riyadh and Saudi Arabia, because I'm always so impressed. In the US, we're so litigious about permits and construction, whatever. In Saudi Arabia, I'll walk down a street and then like 3 months later, there'll be a building there with air conditioning, plumbing, electricity. I'm like, whoa. And then you go inside and everything is just so like gorgeous. And I'm like, where do they get the materials from? So fast. And it's just incredible because the scale at which they're building is incredible. So that's one. I already forgot your second question.
My second question would be, Savvy is a
Savvy's-
global juggernaut right now.
Yeah.
It's moving, shaking, doing really interesting things.
Yeah.
How did Savvy's role kind of shift, or in terms of the way they look at enabling or developing the local ecosystem?
Yeah, we're working on all fronts to make that happen. And I've always viewed that a strategy, especially when there's like you're starting from, I don't want to say nothing, because by the time I showed up, these guys were already here. We got to give them credit. They really started studios from actually nothing. But Savvy takes kind of all of the above strategy. So we have the Savvy Academy that's been putting together programmings around incubation, acceleration. We're working with other entities. I mean, we have an MOU with Marat Capital on making sure that we're bringing in the international experts, because Savvy is a great consolidator of international stakeholders that do have the knowledge, and we want to bring our networks in to support as much as possible, or at least that's genuinely why I'm here and what I'm passionate about. And then obviously we have all these other kind of like adjacent ecosystems. You know, we've got the acquisition of Scopely, in which they've opened an awesome office, Mirai, and they've got so many employees there, plus esports, right? So it's really a I hate this, it's a multi-stakeholder approach, right? Which is a very corporate answer, but you want to kind of do everything possible and see what sticks, all the way from MOUing and working with universities on curriculum to supporting people that like, yeah, we're not going to go back to college at 35 to figure this out. We're going to figure this out now. And so how do you really push entrepreneurship in Saudi Arabia and teach a community that it is okay to fail? And you actually have to fail in gaming in order to succeed. And that's, I think, my current sticking point in mentoring studios and devs that I talk to is like, stop fixating on your first game being the most perfect thing and pouring money into it. Get it out the door, build an audience, figure out your IP, learn from your mistakes, and start working on your second and third product.
That's kind of exactly what I've been saying, which is, I think, what I've been saying is survive your first 3 games because they're all gonna suck. Yeah, exactly. The fourth should be the good one, hopefully. By then, I really like what Savvy is doing locally, because when and not just that, like when you look at the Saudi ecosystem, I think there is something unique where again the multi-stakeholder approach is actually active, where we meet regularly with government, with private entities, with sovereign wealth funds, and so on, to just kind of align. I would say, again, another corporate word, to align the interests in place, and see. Savvy as well worked with universities to bring in, let's say, diplomas and kind of push the talent pipeline from really early on. And I think that's kind of necessary for building an actual ecosystem that sustains. talking about talents and so on, how did you guys face, or I'm sure you did, but how did you face the problem of talent shortage in Saudi, and what did you do to kind of solve the talent pipeline issue?
Yes, so there's definitely a talent gap that we faced. And to be honest, it's not only the teams, it's also us. We had a lot to learn. But I think passion somewhat compensated for that. The early employees that we were able to put on were not people with gaming experience per se, but they all had a hobby of doing something related to games, whether it's modding or designing or art. And a lot of software engineers who were working in software companies had interest in games. So the transition was somewhat easy. However, the gap remained. And one of the main ways that really helped us is to also take on international talents and kind of mix these international talents with our local employees and make sure that they learned from them. And that was, I think, something critical. But to be honest, we still suffer. Hiring still is one of our top concerns in Saudi. But the last thing I wanted to point out is we see the efforts that has been put. There are programs for students as well as for university students to teach them about the gaming industry. And now that the product is starting to come out, we're taking on interns, for example, and we're seeing a massive difference in the quality of talents in Saudi.
That's amazing. Miat, how has your experience been with talent?
We're actually also following way much similar approach from Hani. Finding local talents is indeed so difficult. So even though there are actually a couple of programs, initiatives, academies that are teaching game development, but still it's way much different when those talents gets their hands dirty, like work in a real work environment. So we were doing actually a similar approach. We hire global experienced members so that the local team can actually follow their steps, shadow their work and learn from them. And we're also doing like an internship program so that we can have like junior talents that can learn from the local team that have already learned from the global and so on. I feel like that's our job to really build the ecosystem. It's our job to teach the next generation, because this is how we can build the whole talent pool, I would say. Because no matter how much they keep learning, taking courses, going to programs, it's way much different than going in a real life work environment.
I remember when I was in college, I wanted to intern in a game development studio, and I found none. That was an interesting experience to see right now, because as well so we just closed our cohort for the accelerator right until August. We've invested in about 25 companies in Saudi, and we literally had to contact King Faisal, local universities, to just give us interested people to just have this good, and I would call it also cheap labor, to kind of get the interns working, lower the cost for us. That's kind of the way we look at it. So Miad, you talked about the government support, the government programs and so on. So throughout our work, I don't think I've looked at any well-developed ecosystem that didn't have any, let's say, government programs and support. How important do you think it is or how good were they, the government programs, and how important are they, do you think, to enabling the ecosystem?
I think there is like a lot of support from the government, aside from the accelerators and incubators program that is launching game studios. There's also like the academies and the programs that are teaching game development. There's also now the financial support by VCs and investors that are allocating specific money for gaming. But I think one of the main challenges that any early stage studio will be struggled with, regardless whether in Saudi or outside Saudi, is basically, should I leave my job, my full-time job, and start building my studio while I'll be actually struggling financially, or would I just keep my full-time job and be part-timer, but that will be actually working part-time in my studio, but that probably will jeopardize maybe the quality, the timeline, and everything. So one of the amazing governmental program to solve this issue, you can freely leave your job, start building your own studio while the government will actually back you up for over a year, so you don't have to worry about the financial aspect. You can freely focus on building your own company without worrying about anything related to your financial restrictions. And I think that helped many studios to really focus on building their own company, establishing it very well, so that they can reach a point where they can stand on their feet.
Amazing. Dr. Noor, having worked with IGDA a lot and different ecosystems, where do you see the remaining gaps in the infrastructure for the Saudi ecosystem?
I think every country that is very pro gaming, and there's actually not that many, by the way, but they're so forward thinking about building this industry, is always going to come through those gaps and hurdles. So I don't want it to sound like I'm calling out the ecosystem. I want to preface with there is this strong desire to figure it out and make it work. And it's comes down to the basic things, like how do you onboard people when they want to come relocate? It's that cultural integration of like, okay, meeting each other halfway and like making sure that we're working together, because it is like the Saudi office culture is very, I'm learning, is very different from like the American work culture. When I was looking for apartments, I was looking for furnished ones because I don't even know where to go. I don't know what I'm doing, right? I was like, yo man, I wasn't like yo man, right? But I told the leasing guys, like, there's no like, do you have an apartment with like a desk and like a chair and like an office setup so I can do emails when I come home? And he was like, you want to work at home after work? And I was like, yeah, I take international. He's like, in Saudi Arabia, we are very like family forward and we have what, and I was like, that's so nice. You guys don't work after. I'm sure people do, right? But the fact that it wasn't like built in desks and it's got this family forward culture and you can like walk down the streets as a woman and not feel like you gotta look over your shoulder. And the United States, I'm always like, ready to go. And that's what's nice. It's not even just about like the governance, it's about the lifestyle for bringing the experts in and then training, utilizing that. I mean, my job is to work myself out of a job. Like, I hope 3 years from now, 10 years from now, I don't really know what it's going to take, but there needs to be like more Dr. Noors, and my job needs to become a Saudi job because that's really the only way that this works. And I have never, in all seriousness, met and built an ecosystem where every single entity I sat down with, they understood gaming, they loved gaming, they wanted to build gaming. Maybe they don't have all the tools yet, but I was a games lobbyist in Washington, D.C. for many years, and I spent a decade painstakingly explaining to very, 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 very senior, old white guys how the internet works, where the power button. I mean, I'm not even kidding. When I was a staffer in Congress, I had to show, I'm not going to name and shame, but I had to show someone how to turn their BlackBerry on. Everyone was like, what's a BlackBerry? It's a cell phone. And like, really like in the United States, the government culture there is, video games turn children into little monsters. And Saudi Arabia's over here like, we're going to diversify our portfolio. Games are great. And that is fantastic. Like, that is unusual. And I don't know if Saudis know that and how fantastic that is. Because everywhere else, I have to convince people that like games aren't going to turn us into demons.
No, that's actually true. And seeing it just permeate through the education system right now, like we're working on just putting games into schools and game development into from like the middle schools and so on. I think that's it, that's what I meant. All the or let's say the efforts are kind of aligning into one position. And I think that's great. Regarding the no work at home thing, the memo didn't reach my boss. If you could just call him up, please, and say, hey, that's how it should be done. Because
that's what the leasing agent told me. He was like, ma'am, you want to work after work? I'm like, I mean, want is a strong word. Have to is more like the situation.
Um, Hani and Miad, both of you secured publishing deals, and both of you secured investment. What do you think is needed from like Saudi founders or anyone who's building a gaming studio in Saudi to secure funding or international investments or publishing deals?
Yes. So four things come to mind. First is having polished products or polished games, because at the end of the day, you're not a hobbyist anymore. You need to show that you're a company that can build products that can compete in the market. The second thing that comes to mind is global ambition, because gaming is a global industry by nature, and VCs or investors would only invest if they see potential of real growth. Yeah, that's number two. So global ambition. And the third thing is business acumen in general. Again, game developers tend to be maybe introverted gamers, and a lot of times investors look for people who know what business is, who can do a proper pitch, do a proper financial model, and this is something that I think the local studios need to keep in mind as they apply for investments. So these are the three things that come to
I
mind.
completely agree, and that's kind of why when we designed our accelerator curriculum, we said we're not gonna teach you how to be creative. We'll teach you how to build your games. You know it, we don't know it, but we'll teach you how to be more business oriented. Rather than I'm building my game, you're building your company that should grow and sustain and become massive and hopefully, make you millions and millions and millions of dollars. Miad, by the way, I think if I'm not mistaken, was it last year that you guys won an award here?
Yes.
Amazing. What was it?
So our game Bahamut and the Wakwak Tree won the DEFCOM Indie Award just last year for the graphics galore. It was a huge achievement for us because I remember when they handed me the award, they were telling me, you guys are the first studio from Saudi Arabia and the Middle East to be part of this award ceremony. And that was a huge achievement for us because I felt like that wasn't really an achievement for Starvania or the game specifically, more than that was an achievement for the entire Saudi ecosystem. That we started reaching the globe, we started competing globally.
We're coming, baby.
Yeah, and like if you looked at it like 4 years ago, there was nothing, and now 4 years after, fast forward, we're already competing globally. So that was a very, I would say, pride moment I had.
No, that was amazing, and we were all really proud of you.
Thank
And I was cheering in Riyadh. I was like, "Hey, let's go!" I think I have two, I would say, kind of final questions before maybe we open up for if there are any other questions. One would be we talked a lot about culturally inspired or culturally driven games. What are your takes on this? Where have people done, or how are people doing well in this, and how are they doing bad? Because I agree. I think the Arabian and Saudi culture is just is rich, is just very unexplored, and I think your game explores like a sliver of what it is. How could people do culturally driven games right, from your perspective?
I think what we have done, and I think the smart way that we have done it is now we looked at the trending in general in the gaming industry. Mythologies are trending. Gamers love mythology. And there's a lot of games that were inspired by Greek mythology, Japanese mythology, Persian, but no one is actually speaking about Arabian mythology. So I felt like that's actually a gap that we can easily fill because it's something new, unique, and they have never seen that before. And we have a lot of stories that are worth to be told, and we feel like, okay, that's actually a new perspective to the global gaming market. So we have done Bahamut and the Wakwak Tree, which is inspired by Arabian mythology that is uncommon from 1001 Night book. But the thing that we have done it is we didn't want it to make it super local to the point that it can only be appealing for the local audience. We tried to make it within the global standards, trying to make it also appealing for the other countries, not only for the local region, the Saudi or the Arabian. So I think the way how you can do it is basically trying to reach the global standards, elevate your quality of work, and this is how you can actually reach the global audience.
At least we have 1001 stories.
Yeah.
That's the bare minimum where we start with.
You just basically exposed my secret sauce. Was thank you.
Are these all the sequels you're planning? Like
Yeah,
1001
exactly.
sequels?
Not anymore. Okay. Thank you, Abdul.
Okay, just like a final thing. Dr. Noor, you've been in the ecosystem, you experienced all the things in Saudi. An advice for anyone who wants to set up gaming in Saudi or something. What?
Yeah, I would say it's still early stage, so come open-minded as a pioneer, willing, and it needs to be mutual. I think there is a bit of a perception that maybe, and I will say it, like Saudi Arabia is this open wallet, and it's not. It is a mutually beneficial collaboration. You are coming not because you just want like financing because the market is hard. You're coming to invest, support, stay for the journey. On top of building your product, you're also mentoring. You want to be a part of a community. It is not a straightforward contract cash deal. And that's what we look for. That's what I really scout for in partnerships, in the MOUs you see signed that I'm posting on LinkedIn. We'll have more to announce by Sunday. Can't tell you who they are, but everyone that at least I've like really worked with in the past year to bring to the table have been people that have visited Saudi Arabia first, met with locals, gone to events, and really explored the lifestyle or whatever. And it's not going to be for everyone. It's a little hot. Traffic's crazy. But also, where is it not crazy, right? I'm back in the U.S. and Panama. I had bad time there too. In terms of weather and traffic, it's the same stuff. But if you are, especially now, if you are an adventurer, if you are a pioneer, if you are ready to explore new markets and do something new with your life, if you are tired of kind of like grinding on the same clone mobile app and you have like, I don't know, it takes anywhere from 3 to 5 years to make a game and maybe you're like 45, so you've got 2 games left in you before you retire to raise, right? That's the problem with our industry. It's not a problem, but that's the reality of our industry. There's only so many games you can actually make in your lifetime. This is a great welcoming culture and country for you to come. And it's a place where business meets art. And you can do both. You don't have to sacrifice one or the other, but you have to work for it.
Agreed. And I think there are very few ecosystems that are willing to take this kind of risk at this time. I think we open up for any questions.
Yeah, and we'll pass the mic around for those that. I'm just going to start here. We'll work it back.
Yeah. Let me just.
Or you want to do your mic? Okay. Here. You want to hold this?
So when you think of the players in Saudi Arabia, how do they distribute? Are they mobile players? Are they PC players? Are they console? Where are they?
Maybe I can speak for the ND scene, but you might know better as a representative of a VC. But in the ND scene, I would say the split is probably 50-50 between Steam and mobile. I think every ND developer wants to build proper full-scale games, but some opt to start with mobile because it's more accessible. It's a whole different monetization model. But I would say 50-50 in Saudi currently. I'm not sure how you see it from your side.
From my side, the gaming ecosystem in Saudi, as let's say consumption-wise, mobile is you can build a massive, well-successful company just focused on serving the Saudi ecosystem in mobile. Because when you look at them, the ARPU of the Saudi or the average revenue per user in Saudi is about 8 times that, or about 5 to 8 times that in the US. So the in terms of paying capability, it's really high. The growth in the mobile gaming ecosystem in Saudi is massive. The internet penetration is 100%. Smartphone penetration is 100%. When it comes to PC or console, that's when you will see a little bit of, let's say, fragmentation, where it's it's really difficult, I would say, to build something that's really directed towards the Saudi consumer. You could, but you have to have your, let's say, break-even ceiling really low. But for mobile, many games made it, many companies made it, and successfully doing so. People don't know, but the gaming ecosystem in MENA, which is practically 80% of it is Saudi, is worth, I think, as of now, about $4 billion or so. So we're talking about like an ecosystem that's consumption-wise the size of India right now, and it's one of the fastest growing regions globally.
Hi, I'm Javier of the IPA. We are the trade body of the games industry of the Hispanic market. So I'd love to know how we can support our ecosystem, yours. It has been something exciting that instead of in our case, first building games, we started with events, and now we organize the biggest expo in our market. We have 90,000 attendees in my hometown of Mexico City. So by understanding what these players want, we discovered that there's something related to your ecosystem. And that is where our roots come from. So all Spanish speakers, we have ancestry in the Arabian language because of Al-Andalus. So we have done some tests, and I already have some characters. And they respond very well to understanding that almohada and so many of our words actually come from this very exotic place, which is on the other side of the world. So I wonder, like, what do the studios need the most in the MENA region, benefiting from this excitement, this curiosity that my players in the Hispanic market feel towards your ecosystem? How can we help you?
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to that, I think that not only in gaming, even in technology, there's a lot of, let's say, comparables between the MENA region and I would say the Mexico and South America. In our accelerator, most of our mentors are Spanish speaking, coming from Spain. We've never worked with a lot of people coming from Mexico. We'll be more than happy to do so. Let's definitely explore. Let's see how we could work. Let's talk, definitely.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, how can we get in touch with you guys? And regarding the outsource thing, is it also do you also remote outsource? Or do I have to come to your country?
I mean, you don't have to do anything, you know?
It's not that
a
I don't want
have
to, it's just...
Like I said, it's an all of the above approach. It's an ecosystem. There's no like one size fits all, obviously. I encourage everyone, because I get a lot of questions about this. I'm surprised. This is public information. I encourage everyone to Google Saudi Arabia's 2030 vision and read the gaming section. Everything that we do, that we work on independently as entities or together as a society, it's running towards that goal. We're very transparent about what we're building towards. And I don't do a good job enough of like, maybe I need to put it on LinkedIn or something, like read this before you ask for a meeting, right? So that's one. But it really is, right? It's a combination of like, if there's a gap, I feel very strongly that I try to start local first, but that's just my principle. I'm not speaking on behalf of any entity. And if there's the gap in that market, then we go and we seek it and we fill it. We try to work on it collaboratively. But again, it's always been my philosophy, and I'm just speaking independently. When I go into a new market, I'm trying to create multiples of myself in that region, so then I can maybe leave and go build elsewhere. Not that I'm like coming to Saudi to get out of Saudi, you know, but it's as someone that is an ecosystem builder that is usually retained by different governments and countries. And by the way, I just spent the last 3 years in Panama, so I'm so excited that you want to connect, because I do know the booming market, so we also should catch up. But again, it just depends on like what you're offering, what you need, and does it fit with the strategy? Does it fit with also the needs of the Saudi developers? So it's a mutual partnership.
Well, is it also readable in this 2030 vision? What do you need? Can I read it there?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
No, it's all.
then I will read it before.
Those are the goals. What I love about Saudi is it's very KPI driven. So it is like these are our benchmarks. These are our North Stars. Now, does the strategy change? Yes. Why? Because the market changes. But there's no like secrecy. Like we're trying to build an awesome video game ecosystem where there's a talent pool and figure out what that means in every genre, in every region. And some places we're going to be stronger than others. And eventually, and we just build on top of that. There's no like, what is the secret to, you know, and it's like, there's no, yeah, it's not that complicated.
So it sounds like an easy barrier entry.
Yeah, I mean, I think the real thing is trying to figure out like who do you know and which entity is going to best support. But again, it just depends on what gaming is huge.
Thank you, everyone. I think that's it for our panel. Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys.